Hello and welcome to this brief introduction on Newton's law of cooling. Our objectives in this video demonstration are to derive Newton's law of cooling, and here we will use calculus 2 techniques. We'll also demonstrate how to solve applied problems using Newton's law of cooling, and here we will use precalculus techniques. So materials for review include solving exponential equations and logarithms, and these are both tools that we'll use on the precalculus level. But we're also going to use linear ordinary differential equations, which is something on the calculus 2 level. So let's begin with the derivation of Newton's law of cooling. And again, this is using the calculus 2 level tools. So Newton's law of cooling states that the rate at which the temperature of an object changes is proportional to the difference between its temperature and the temperature of its surroundings. So if we translate these words into mathematical constructs, we have du dt is equal to k times the quantity ut minus m. Now du dt represents the rate of temperature changing. In fact, it's the instantaneous rate of temperature changing. The value of k is a constant of proportionality, and the temperature difference between the object's temperature and the temperature of the surroundings is represented by u of t minus m. M is the temperature of the surroundings. U of t will be the temperature of the object at time t. So this is our differential equation. So solving the differential equation can be done by using the linear differential equation technique. And what we're going to do is we're going to take this du dt is equal to k times the quantity u of t minus m. We're going to distribute the k, and then we're going to move all of the terms over that have u associated with them. And this gives me du dt minus k u of t is equal to negative k times m. Remember, m is a constant and k is a constant. So what we have now is we are going to multiply each term in our equation by what we call an integrating factor. And this is highlighted in green here for demonstration purposes. The integrating factor often has the form of e to the integral of p of t times dt. So whatever function is multiplying the u of t, not the derivative of u, just the u of t, that's the thing that we're going to integrate. The purpose for doing this is to have the ability to collapse one side of the equation, the side that has the derivative on it, into the derivative of a product. So what we do after we do this multiplication of this e to the integral of negative k dt, because remember, negative k is that function multiplying the u, our temperature of the object, we're able to use the product rule for derivatives and collapse it down into d dt of e to the integral of negative k dt times u. So we have the derivative of that product is equal to negative km e to the integral of negative k dt. So continuing the solving process, we're going to go ahead and integrate that negative k dt. So we're going to go ahead and do that integral because it's pretty simple. So we integrate negative k dt and we just get negative kt. Now, you might be asking, where's the arbitrary constant from this indefinite integration? We only want one of these results from the indefinite integral. We only want one member of that family. So we're going to pick the simplest one and let the arbitrary constant be 0. Now I have the derivative with respect to t of the product of e to the negative kt times u. Remember, u is the function representing the temperature of the object. And that derivative is going to be equal to negative km e to the negative kt. So here we have this derivative of a product. Now to undo a differentiation, we go ahead and use the fundamental theorem of calculus to have the integral. So we end up on one side with e to the negative kt u times u of t is equal to negative km times the integral of e to the negative kt dt. We go ahead and do that integration. We're going to go ahead and put all of our constants of integration together at the end. And we have e to the negative kt times u. is equal to negative km divided by negative k times the quantity e to the negative kt plus some arbitrary constant. We go ahead and do a little simplifying, and we end up with the temperature of the object, U of t, is equal to the temperature of the surroundings, M, plus an arbitrary constant for now, C, times e to the negative kt. And we're going to figure out what that arbitrary constant is in just a moment. So if we set U at 0 equal to some initial temperature, we'll call it T naught, then we have U of 0 is equal to T naught. Now T naught has to be equal to M plus C times e to the negative k times 0. Well, negative k times 0 is 0, and e to the 0 is 1. So we have T naught minus M is equal to that arbitrary constant, C. So our final form of our model will be U of t, the temperature of the object, is equal to M, the temperature of the surroundings, plus the quantity T naught minus M, where T naught is the initial temperature. And we're going to take that T naught minus M quantity, and we're going to multiply it by e to the negative k little t, where little t is time and little k is the rate. So each of these parameters has a meaning. U of t is the temperature of the object at time t. Capital M is the surrounding temperature. T naught is the initial temperature of the object. K is the rate of cooling, all right? So we have a cooling rate. The negative that's in the exponent tells us that this is cooling. Temperature is decreasing. And this occurs because the initial temperature is greater than the temperature of the surroundings. And of course, little t represents time. So our resulting formulas, we have future temperature, where U of t is equal to M plus the quantity T naught minus M times the exponential function e to the negative kt. If we solve this for k, we get the cooling rate. So we have k is equal to negative 1 over t times the natural log of U minus M divided by T naught minus M. Now, U minus M divided by T naught minus M will be between 0 and 1 because T naught is the initial temperature and temperature is decreasing. So capital U, representing the temperature at some future time that we happen to know, will be less than T naught. And the natural log of numbers between 0 and 1 are negative. So a negative times a negative will be positive. Okay? Newton's law of cooling, as far as figuring out the time to reach a certain temperature, you can simply take the rate of cooling temperature and switch the roles of T and K. So we have T is equal to negative 1 over K times the natural log of U minus M divided by T naught minus M. Let's take a look at some examples. Our first example is going to be to determine a future temperature. Suppose we have pulled a freshly baked pie from the oven. This initial temperature of the pie is 350 degrees Fahrenheit, and the temperature of the surrounding room is 66 degrees Fahrenheit. If the rate of cooling is about 0.07, what would the temperature be approximately 12 minutes from when we pulled it out of the oven? So here we're looking for a future temperature, so we're going to use Newton's law of cooling in the future temperature format. We want to know the temperature 12 minutes from when we pull it out of the oven. So U of 12 is going to be equal to 66 plus 350 minus 66, that quantity, times e to the negative 0.07 times 12. We go ahead and do the arithmetic, and we get about 188.61 degrees Fahrenheit. So it's still a little too hot to eat after 12 minutes, but the temperature is cooling. Our second example is to determine the rate of cooling. All right, now suppose we have pulled a freshly baked pie from the oven. The initial temperature of the pie is 350 degrees Fahrenheit, and the temperature of the surrounding room is 66 degrees Fahrenheit. Suppose we also take the temperature 20 minutes later and find the pie is 150 degrees Fahrenheit. What is the rate of cooling for the pie? So in using Newton's law of cooling directly, using the future temperature model, we have U at 0 is 350, that's the initial temperature. M is 66, that is the temperature of the surroundings. And we know that 20 minutes later we took the temperature to be 150 degrees. So when I plug these values into the Newton's law of cooling formula and I solve for K, I demonstrate this process so that we don't just go directly to a formula, we actually go through the steps for solving an exponential equation. And U of 20 is equal to 150, and that happens to be equal to 66 plus the quantity 350 minus 66 times e to the negative k times 20. So we isolate the exponential, and then we remove the exponential. We use natural log to remove that base e exponential, and then we solve for k by dividing both sides by negative 20. And we get the rate of cooling to be approximately 0.061 degrees Fahrenheit per minute. That's the rate of cooling that we calculated for this situation. Our third example is to determine the time to reach a certain temperature, which is probably a pretty important question. So we know from research that it's been determined that the average temperature upon which consumption of food may begin is around 130 degrees Fahrenheit. Basically, food at this temperature will be warm enough to eat, but possibly not too warm to burn the inside of your mouth. Suppose you pull a pizza from the oven that was set at 400 degrees Fahrenheit. Also, suppose the room's temperature is 72 degrees Fahrenheit, and after 10 minutes you test the temperature of the pizza, you find it to be 235 degrees Fahrenheit. How long do you have to wait until the pizza reaches an edible temperature without burning your mouth? Okay, pretty popular question, I think. So what we know the initial temperature was 400 because we pulled it out of the oven at 400 degrees. We know that 10 minutes after we pulled it out, the temperature was 235 degrees Fahrenheit. We know the temperature of the surroundings was 72 degrees Fahrenheit. So what we need to know is we need to know the time so that the final temperature is 130 degrees Fahrenheit. We can begin eating the pizza safely. But we also need to know the rate of cooling. And that's where the 10-minute mark comes in at 235 degrees Fahrenheit. So we're going to use this information. So what we do is we go through and we solve the exponential equation that 235 is equal to 72 plus 400 minus 72, that difference, times e to the negative k times 10. Remember, after 10 minutes, the temperature was 235 degrees. So we isolate the exponential, we remove the exponential with the natural logarithm, and then we divide both sides by negative 10, and we get k to be about 0.0699. Now, I'm not going to round this value because this is not what we're looking for. We are looking for a time to wait. So I want to keep my answers as precise as possible. So now that we know the rate of cooling, we can proceed with determining the time it takes to reach the goal temperature. So we put that 0.0699, 263,408 back in for K. We try to keep it as accurate as possible. The goal temperature was 130 degrees. So I isolate the exponential. I then remove the exponential with logarithms. And then I divide both sides by that K value. So I have the natural log of 58 divided by 328. Then I'm going to divide that by negative 0.0699, 263,408. And that's going to give me the time. Now the time here ends up calculating to be about 24.78 minutes from when we remove it from the oven. So if you want to wait for the pizza to cool to an edible temperature, you're going to wait about 25 minutes for this to do it. If you do it too soon, you might burn your mouth. So we don't want to do that. Our last example demonstrates the law itself. So we're going to run an experiment. We heat water until it begins to boil. So I did this on my stove, and I took temperature at 2-minute intervals after we removed the pot from the heat source. So we take it off the burner and just let it cool naturally in the room. And the room temperature is approximately 72 degrees. So here is the data that I collected with a digital thermometer. So when I go to plot the temperature, we can see this exponential curve coming through the data itself. Now, when I use Excel curve fitting tools, we have this function that fits the data at 185.45 times e to the negative 0.02x. The r-squared value is a measure of how good the algebraic model fits the curve, and it's often called the coefficient of determination. But Excel formatting used the uninhibited decay model and not the Newton's law of cooling model, so we have to make a change here. So using curve fitting techniques, we can have the data fitted with a Newton's law of cooling model instead. And here I use the fact that 72 was my temperature of the surroundings. So my model actually becomes 72 plus 117.52 times E to the negative 0.0421 times T. Now, EXP in capital letters is an Excel command used for the E number. And here we can see that the blue graph is my data, or is my model, I should say. The orange graph is the actual data. And we can see that the model here that I've used is actually really close to what the data is telling us. So the average percent error from our model when compared with the data was about negative 0.0012. That's 0.0012%, okay, error. And that's actually pretty good on the average. I mean, that's really small. So the model is in the format for Newton's law of cooling instead of uninhibited growth. So Excel puts it in uninhibited growth, but we needed to do some changes to put it in Newton's law of cooling. Now, one thing to remember is that models don't fit data exactly. There are many sources of error that come about when you're doing this. Temperatures may not be recorded at precisely 2-minute intervals, and of course that's the case because it takes time to register the change and record it. The thermometer, even though it was digital, it only rounded temperatures to the nearest tenth of a degree. We have those things as well. So these are just some of the sources of error that can come about with the data collection. Thank you for your time and attention.